Xbox has given us our first major gaming event of 2023. I like that they focused on games that are coming out in the first half of this year, as I think sometimes gamers on the internet just love hype more than the actual games. Don't ever look at the comment section of a live stream, it's a mess. Anyways, Danny with the DMGT here, your new favorite place for all things music, video games, and tech. Here are the highlights along with the things that stood out to me the most from Microsoft Bethesda's Developer Direct. Xbox kicked things off with Mojang's upcoming Minecraft Legends coming out April 18. This is an interesting take on the PvPvE survival resource gathering genre that's been popularized in recent years, but it makes sense with the Minecraft formula. The tricky part here is that Microsoft was very explicit that this was a game that you can't play on your own. You have to play with other people, and each session will be unique to previous ones. So it's not an ongoing type world like you would find in a Rust or a Valheim, but plays more like a Tribes of Midgard for those familiar with that game. So it definitely seems to be leaning more towards the competitive side of things, considering that you have to worry about other players and other teams along with spawning mobs that appear in the game and has its own story that you also have to follow along. Luckily, it seems like there really isn't a ton on the live service or microtransaction side of things for now, but considering that we already have so many online competitive games, I don't know exactly where this one will fit, but let me know if you're interested in this one. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that I'm not really the biggest fan of these racing car type games, but Forza Motorsport looked really nice. This was definitely the most graphically impressive game in the entire showcase, and there were some really interesting tidbits on the audio side of things where different attachments and different improvements you make to your vehicle will change the actual sound of the car that you're driving. I thought that was a really nice touch. I don't know, for a game that really doesn't appeal to me on the gameplay side, they definitely got me on the audio design side of it. Unfortunately, this was the only game at the showcase that didn't get a proper release date, but they did still commit to 2023. Speaking of audio design, Hi-Fi Rush was the biggest surprise at the showcase, as this game is out now. As far as gameplay specifically, this one intrigued me the most as it's a rhythm action type game, but I'm just not a huge fan of the voice acting and the dialogue in these types of games. It felt a little bit more on the Forspoken side. Look, I'm not here to dunk on any of that. If you like anime and JRPGs, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about as far as the dialogue and the voice acting.
Chill out! It'll be fine! Power core!
Just something that you definitely should keep in mind going into this game. However, like I mentioned with Forza Motorsport, the audio design side of things is what keeps me interested, and considering that this is a rhythm game, it sounds like they took great care on that side of things. So because it's out now, I'm gonna give it a try. The Elder Scrolls Online section was definitely the weirdest part of the entire showcase. Technically, there was an announcement for the upcoming Necrom expansion to the game, but it was really just promoting the additional stream that was gonna happen that's gonna talk in more detail about that expansion, and the entire section at the showcase was basically just promoting the base game of the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, I will say I have played this in the past. It can be a fun time, and it was a nice touch that they're making all the DLC and expansions available right now up to Necrom, but for an entire section that ran a little over 5 minutes, they didn't really give us anything new, so I thought that was just a weird move. And finally, there's Redfall coming out on May 2nd, and this was definitely the game that I was the most interested in. If you're familiar at all with the Left 4 Dead 4-player co-op similar to last year's Back 4 Blood, this is basically that same concept, but in an open world and with vampires. However, there are a few key differences here that I think is compelling and may refresh the genre. And considering that it isn't as linear as games like this have been in the past, I think that's going to give players a lot more flexibility and a little bit more unique experiences playing this game. However, I think most gamers are going to be grateful that, different from like Minecraft Legends, you don't have to play this game online. You can play this on your own. Now, the only concern I really have with this is that the gameplay looks like it can be a little bit clunky, but we won't really be able to tell until we get it in our hands and actually play the game and feel it out. Particularly gunplay in these types of games is where it gets a little bit tricky. How do you balance precise and tactical with a little bit more of the arcade style that made Left 4 Dead so much fun? And of course, it's gonna be a little spooky. You're gonna walk into houses, look for resources, and then get jumped by a vampire potentially in the dark. I'm not saying this is gonna be a Game of the Year candidate, but it doesn't have to be. I think it can just be a fun one and one that I'm looking forward to. So that was the Microsoft Xbox Bethesda Developer Direct. Kept that bad boy under 5 minutes for you. If you found this video informative or helpful at all, please give a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. You should totally leave a bunch of comments that just say the word farts. Just leave a bunch of fart comments to confuse everyone that didn't make it to the end of the video, because it'd be very cool. Just leave a bunch of